That means
okay. We're recording now. Anybody volunteering to be note taker in the absence of Andy?
Okay, I could give it a try.
Okay.
So, welcome to the TOC meeting on 6th of December 22. And we start with the presentation from Jochen with an update of the runtime deployments working group.
Yeah, so since last time, a lot has happened. What have we accomplished so far? All of our release pipelines have been migrated to the new Concourse. And although there are a lot of red boxes, each of them works fine. So we were able to cut a release one release from all our artifacts that we have. So in particular, releasing CF deployment works really very nicely, thanks to the work of Dave and Carson and others who created this masterpiece of release engineering. So this really works very nicely. Also, almost all of the test environments have been migrated to our own GCP account. I think there's just one missing. This is the only AWS account. So here I will contact Chris soon for some funding so that we get our own account and can migrate that one also. Rest is migrated. Good. Next big story was the Jammy migration. So CF deployment has now been fully migrated to the Jammy stemcell and also already consumed by us here at SAP. And to have a basic validation for the old bionic stemcell, we have created this simple pipeline here, which just tests the plain CF deployment on bionic and runs the smoke test and the acceptance test, and that's it. So this is how we can guarantee that bionic is still has no regressions and is still working. Good, and then our next big project is this here, integrating support for the new CF Linux FS4 stack. What we already have is the CF deployment release with an experimental ops file. I think this one introduces an experimental ops file for adding the stack, and we will soon consume this here at SAP for our foundations and add the stack to the foundations. And what we are waiting for and where we are hoping for your support is that all build packs support FS4. So here in this collection ticket, there's an overview. Java, .NET, Node.js, Python, and Go already have support for FS4. And for the remaining build packs, we have opened issues and waiting now for action from the owners. And then we can integrate or offer full FS4 support. Yeah. If you want more details, you can always check our notes here and see what's happening in the working group meetings. Yeah, any questions?
Do we have timelines for the remaining build packs? I'm asking because CF Linux FS3 is supposed to be have end of life in April 23, and I know that customers always ask, how do we test the migration, etc.
Yeah, well, there's no timeline for the individual build packs. This is the best answer I got. We have work scheduled to get the build pack support for FS4. No, there is no better information available.
That means maybe here we can, from the TOC, ping Greg to plan as, or ensure that we either have a roadmap or we plan for the deprecation of the build packs if they do not migrate.
Yeah.
Or cannot migrate, or whatever is the issue, or call for help in the community to support such build packs.
Yeah.
I think it's on an internal VMware roadmap to do this by a certain date, but somewhere next year. But Greg probably can give more details on that.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks.
Any more for demo?
Actually, I also believe that there's like a reason why VMware people can we are not allowed legally to say these things in public, because that has like stock implications and stuff. So that's like why this, like, it's difficult to get like really a date or something in the public.
Okay.
Are there any plans to add the performance test here, to have some kind of performance test for the release?
Long term, it would be good to integrate our performance tests into the deployment pipeline and get a fully automatic report for every release, how performance changed. Yes, that would be good. So currently the performance tests are still running on another Concourse and are still under heavy development. So there are a lot of scenarios missing. Once development is finished and once all the smaller improvements for the pipelines I've collected are all in place, then we could think about adding performance tests here, yes.
But maybe a note, the performance tests Jochen talked about are CF API performance tests. I mean, there are many more regions where performance tests would make sense, routing, I don't know, starting applications and things like that. So it's a big thing. Maybe at the moment, it's really, it makes sense to have that per working group a little bit more decoupled. It's a long road to get this close to stable, let's say it.
Yeah.
I mean, in a certain sense, they are already connected. Yeah, if we release a new CF deployment version, it automatically triggers performance and load tests, and then you have to search in the right place, and you get a new chart with the data. So yeah, they are already connected somewhat.
They should be executed before the release in world.
At least for Cloud Controller, actually, we would like to see that before a copy release is cut. But again, here
even better.
That's there's no solution yet available.
And the ops file reference at Jochen is, it brings, so to say, the stack and the build packs into Cloud Foundry deployment.
It adds the stack, so the CF Linux FS4 release, root file system, and all that stuff. And it adds the 4 or 5 build packs which already support FS4. And we at SAP here will integrate this soon and then roll out the partial FS4 support with the build packs which have been updated. And yeah, over time we will hopefully be able to add all build packs. What we also have is here, this job, this is the only job that is intentionally red. So here we are running cats with the FS4 stack. And here you have, there's a certificate expired, but here you have an overview what is still missing. So here you see the build packs which do not have FS4 support. These tests are failing. So when that one is green, we are complete. Okay, any other questions, comments, suggestions?
Nothing from me.
The canonical question, any support that you need from the TOC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just make sure these stories are scheduled by somebody. Apart from that, with a little bit more support from Chris for an AWS account, we are fine. So
do you want that now? You said you were going to reach out, but
not now.
okay.
Next week or so, maybe.
Just let me know, yeah.
It's just an AWS account, and
Yep.
it's not urgent. But
Sounds good.
Then the relocation is complete. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much, Jochen. Let us move on then. Thank you. Folks, sorry I was late. Just, meeting running over. I put words. They're difficult all of a sudden. Supply chain risk issue that we talked about a long time back. I figured now might be as good a time as any for us to look at like what ought to be the next steps on that. Has anything changed in the world around it? How can we progress? I don't feel like I'm close enough to how this impacts to provide any starting point with this, I'm afraid. So, floor is open.
I found out that what's his name, Chip Childers, the previous, you probably still remember him. He now works for VMware and apparently is working on this supply chain security issue. Last week I reached out to have a chat with him about that. Like he apparently has some influence on the direction VMware is heading. So it would probably be good to have some input from him, given that he has all this CF contacts as well. So.
Yeah, if Chip's available to help with that, that's fantastic. As far as the LF goes, there's been a lot of talk lately about how we need to have more security support for LF projects, including Cloud Foundry. The Open SSF, the Open Source Software Foundation, is sort of a new project as of about a year ago. As of right now, they just have like a best practices for open source developers repository. Actually, I'll drop that. I don't think this is actionable right here, but I will drop it in chat just because folks might be interested in that. But there is talk about getting more, declarative like best practices to all the LF projects across the board. So hopefully there'll be a little more guidance from the LF soon. But as of right now, it's just been like conversations we've been having about this is something we need to do. So hopefully there'll be a little bit more with that early next year. But yeah, looping Chip in is a great idea.
Yeah, that's one avenue, and the other thing is still that I believe if we want to do it properly, we need more control over Concourse or the fate of Concourse, and that's also a thing that's going on within VMware.
Right.
Seeing if we might want to move Concourse within the CF Foundation. I mean, that's all like depends on if people here actually want that, right? But that's still like I would believe if you or I do believe that if you want to do proper supply chain security, you need your CI to generate your provenance data, and for that you need features in Concourse to do it properly. So by moving that into this foundation, I think that would be, I mean, if they are willing to move here, but I think that could be a good opportunity for us to implement that.
My mouse keeps double clicking
So-
today. It's very annoying. Sorry, just catching up typing there. It sounds like there's two obvious routes forward. Get Chip in, hear from him, hear what he's thinking. At least that would give us a starter for 10. And is there a conversation to be had with where does that decision about bringing Concourse? Because I agree, like bringing CI/CD inside makes a lot of sense. Right? But where does that conversation happen with them to find out if they're interested? Is that
So
with
there's
you, Chris?
two sides.
It's largely with VMware. I mean,
Yeah,
if we
VMware or
decided to,
Concourse.
it would be a, intellectual property donation to the Cloud Foundry Foundation. And, that there's not a whole lot to do on our end except perceive the repositories and throw a new license on it. But if VMware decided to donate that to the foundation, then we could make that happen, but that would ultimately come from VMware.
But also there's like on the TOC side, or maybe even above, like we need to decide as a
Right.
foundation if we actually feel like Concourse is, I don't
Does it
know,
fit?
aligns with, does it fit with our our project?
And do we have the maintainers, or would maintainers come along with the donation from VMware? Right.
I think that's to be decided. Like that's on the VMware
Right.
side. But I mean, like I think that what they are probably looking at from the foundation is more of a, we have now a structure with like these working groups and like that. We have that whole model going on that seems to work, and we have, I mean, I think we have people in here in this working group that are the TOC that are interested in the fate of Concourse, right? So that could also mean that some of the foundation members would want to contribute more to Concourse because it's easier if it falls under the foundation. But that needs to be proven, right? That actually is the case.
Would you think that the Concourse would need its own new working group, or would that fit under foundational infrastructure? Want some more repositories for them?
Everything that's on the foundation infrastructure is the beauty. It's like I don't know.
It might be easier to structure it as a separate working group.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it
I think
deserves
so as well.
a separate one. It's a whole own universe, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we need to RFC how much repository can have one working group.
Upper limit.
Yeah.
Foundational infrastructure is full.
Okay, so it sounds like we have some reasonably clear paths forward there. I guess there's no point in us having a conversation about whether we would even want Concourse until we find out if they would even be willing.
I don't know.
To
Like,
donate
I
it.
think having that information, like from the foundation, like if they are open to it, I think would help the conversations internally at VMware. Like if we have a bit of an, like, I don't know, if there's an appetite at the foundation, then they can try to do this, like all this difficult work internally to move the intellectual property, right? If the foundation is not even interested, I think that's an easier conversation to have than trying to do all the legal stuff first and then finding out the foundation doesn't want it. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, fair point.
Makes sense, yeah.
Like,
Okay, yeah, no, maybe then we can stick this on the agenda for next week, give people some time to mull it over and think about it rather than putting people on the spot today. Does that sound reasonable? Or would you want a bit more time than a week? Would you like prefer next year at this point?
that sounds like next year. It's really far away.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think the other thing we would need to determine is Concourse likely to get more contributions or activity and support broadly from the community? I mean, as the longer term benefit of moving it over. So, and I think at VMware we're dedicating the effort to it that we can now. So that's unlikely to change when it moves over. But if we would get any uplift, that'd probably be the primary maintenance benefit of moving it. And if not, it might not be worth it.
Okay, well, I'll stick something in the agenda for early January and give people plenty of time to think about it. And we'll go from there. And if we can get Chip in at some point as well. Chris, are you all right to?
Yeah, I'll reach out to Chip.
Ruben, yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah, I already reached out to Chip. So I think I have something. I'm gonna get a time booked with him to discuss.
Cool.
Updating the actions. Right. Okay. On to PRs/stale issues. It's a small batch today. I didn't see any PRs that looked like they needed our attention particularly, but there was one issue that I just thought we could have a look at it and either just put it to bed, close it off, not relevant, or decide what we want to do with it. So if people want to take a minute to read it, it's issue number 8.
Talking about Chip.
Yep.
Didn't we get rid of the incubation process, or at least move everything into the main Cloud Foundry org?
Yeah, so some of this, I mean, there may be some update needed to governance.md to make this stuff explicit.
Yeah, but we deleted that file as part of the cleanup.
Oh,
I think this
okay.
is probably largely irrelevant now. Maybe the core of it is still like, do we need to be any more explicit about like a process for creating or destroying working groups as kind of the main representation of projects? And I don't know, I feel like we've, at least in practice, had a good enough process there that we could probably just close this out as pretty much resolved.
Yeah, we have this RFC for repository ownership that covers most aspects in different wording, but
Beyhan, any views on this?
Can be closed.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, I'll close it off. I'm tight today.
We could probably close 122, the one that I raised about the potentially redundant principles, and still be there as something we could address later if we want to. But I certainly haven't put forth anything more concrete to resolve that.
I'm looking through this today. I did spend 10 minutes thinking about this. I went, I don't have anything better either. Okay, everyone happy just to close this off as a won't do for now? Cool.
Yep.
Right. That's the end of the ones I know about. Does anybody have any others that they want to address?
We did skip over the review actions from last week, and just
oh, okay.
Before
yeah,
the
right,
yeah, well, you weren't here, so we went ahead with the presentation from
right.
deployment, but.
Okay, let's jump backwards then. Yeah, Chris, do you want to update us on stuff you were doing?
Sure. Yeah, so I made a pass at those that list of orphaned repos. That was in I'm trying to find the issue. It was already merged, I believe. Well, regardless, I've got the link to a spreadsheet that I created here. Anyone wants to take a look? Admittedly, I did get to this 30 minutes before this meeting. I've had a busy week, but I made a pass through and at least found, marked in green all of the repositories that are sort of under the Linux Foundation CFF control and should remain so. And then there's some other fun ones like, homebrew tap, which is every year there's like a question like, who owns this? What do I do? I need something done with this. And then there's a lot of private repositories, a lot of ones that could be, there's a few empty ones that can be deleted. There's a few that are already archived, so I think we can just ignore them. And I haven't gotten eyes on all 100 or so of these, but some of them are fairly clear what working group they would go to if they're going to go to a working group. There's Loggergator ones and there's Stratus, which is still, up in the air, and there's a bunch of UAA private ones. So this should be fairly easy to go through and either archive or delete. But then we need to create a new, do we create a new official working group? Is this what we sort of decided there? To house these CFF/admin, and are there some repositories that are just under the TOC as well? Are those things sort of separate? Those are the questions I have.
I think we said for just processing consistency and visibility, having like a virtual administrative working group.
Right, which would be
probably makes sense. Yeah.
Some repositories that are sort of owned by the TOC and others that are owned by the CFF LF.
Yeah, we might even separate those.
Areas.
Yeah,
you can have separate areas in that working group, right?
Right.
So we can just follow the same model.
Sounds good. I know, as far as, and this is another issue we've been talking about, as far as once we do get the working groups, once we get the projects in Project Control Center, the LF tool, to reflect the working groups, I'll have one that's going to be like that CFF admin group, but that'll also have any other repositories that are orphaned, right? So if you look at the overall dashboard for Cloud Foundry, it'll have everything in it because those will all live there. So that's what I was planning on doing on that end, which is somewhat related.
But orphaned repos should just be archived, right? If they're not owned by a working group.
Yes, but archived repositories will still show up in things like LFX Insights, right? Because it's still work that was done.
Sure.
So if you look back
also
over the
like
last,
on the security side, because that is a
probably not on the security side now, just in Insights, I guess. So if you're looking back at like, the amount of data work done or the contributions from a certain company, and you're going back 5 years, there's going to be a ton of work done on archived repositories. So that needs to be reflected somewhere there. So I was going to basically have all of the other working groups be declarative. These are the repositories, and then have probably the admin one be just like, and everything else, because no one's really going to be tracking that data. Or I could have a separate working group for that, but that gets messy. So, yeah, I guess we need to create a new working group. What do we think it should be called? Admin?
I was just going to call it TOC, to be honest.
TOC?
I took an action down for myself just to go and create that in the structure during the week.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But there is
TOC
already a
would be an
working
area.
group TOC. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we rephrase. There's one this TOC charter, and that contains a YAML structure that is treated similar to a working group, with a few exceptions because of the special team roles of the TOC members. I mean, but that's more an implementation question. We could add here areas. I need to find out if there are some limitations. We could enhance that one and simply add areas instead of, I think it has at the moment one area where the community project inside, that's all that exists. But that maybe that's easier than having a new working group, because that's already the location of the TOC.
Yeah.
But
agree. I think that probably would be easier. Didn't know that existed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that's just in the overall like Cloud Foundry YAML.
Oh,
We
that-
need a markdown for it in
The TOC markdown, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And at the end, you see
yeah, right.
one of these YAML things that looks like a working group.
Yep.
And this could be enhanced, and yeah, might be that I need to tune slightly the
Sure.
org automation, but that's probably easy. It
But
is already included. So if we change the TOC members, it would be reflected in the team structure.
But it would make sense to add the repos that are owned by the TOC in that list. That would probably work automatically, but we could also create a separate, just normal working group for the I don't know, CFF admin, because that would like that's more in line, right, with because they want to own a few repositories, and that could be in their own working group.
So we would need to find one of these CFF admins and ask for a draft for a working group charter, right? That's the starting point.
Yeah, that's really good. If one of those people.
Only we could find one.
Let's search a bit.
Okay. Well, sure. Yeah, so, well, is that what we want to do? We want to have some repositories here in the technical oversight committee, like semi-working group. I mean, and of those, I don't think there's necessarily that many that are clear. Homebrew tap, I think, would be a fine candidate since no one else wants it, but it is kind of important. I'm not sure what other, aside from community, which is a comprehensive one, I don't know what else. I mean, well, regardless, I can draft up a working group charter for the Cloud Foundry Foundation / or just the admin working group. I'm just trying to think of, as there's also the PCC thing. Does the TOC then? I think it might be kind of helpful to have that all be one working group, but as opposed to the TOC one, just having like what, 2 assets then, like community and maybe homebrew tap, should you all decide to take that.
I don't feel like it fits under TOC. I mean, like probably a bit of better fit with foundational infrastructure, although like, I mean.
Sounds like a volunteer to me.
I mean, shouldn't be saying those things, but it's a worse fit with TOC, right?
Okay, well then I guess my question is then the TOC its own working group in some sense, and does it have just one repository community?
I mean, it's kind of a virtual working group. Like we just need a way to mechanically account for all of these according to the partition model of repo ownership that we decided on in the RFC. So yeah, I don't think we should over rotate too much on like, oh, is the TOC actually a working group? Well, no, it's a separate body, but we need a way to account for the repos. So even if there's like a stub artifact to represent that in a format that's similar to the real working group ones, like I think that's fine. But from that perspective, it might be a little simpler just to have like a separate virtual working group to track the administrative repos. Again, like it's not really it's not really a working group. It's things that we're recognizing as administrative assets of the foundation.
Right. So as far as like organizing the community repo, right, you'd have a working groups folder, and on that same level, you've got the toc.md. So we'd have an admin.md there or a cff.md there.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That makes sense. So then, and then
Chris, you would be the tech lead, right? It's more like people would know who to contact for these particular, for these repos. I think that. That's
and there are some things there that I'd want TOC folks to have eyes on. Like I've got a few apps running that Steve Greenberg maintains, like I think GoFetcher and Slackin, a couple like little things like that are actually running apps that need. Someone else should have some context into besides just me, I think.
So that would be a reviewer. or an approver, right? That
Yeah.
we can use those roles, and that also makes it
Yeah.
discoverable for other people, like when there's an issue with these things, who to reach out to.
Mhm.
In the case that Chris went on vacation, I mean, I know that never happens, but
Okay.
Makes sense to me. So I've added in an action for Chris to go and create that charter for the virtual CFF admin working group. Okay, I've noted the resolution there as well. So the second action from last week, Beyhan, you were chasing Silvestre to make a case to the TOC, and I can't remember what the case was for off the top of my head.
So we discussed a little bit there was a request to enable the Renovate bot, and at the end we discussed that it's already done actually. So ran when Chris just accepted the request. This is what I got from the discussions, and that's why I didn't reach out to Silvestre. Is there still anything not clear with the Renovate bot, Chris? Was this enabled in the for autoscaler?
Yeah, let me, I forget where we're with that, actually. I mean,
So from the discussion, I get the understanding that it's already the case that the bot is activated for the.
yeah, it was approved to
repos.
one of those repositories.
Yeah.
So I think that should be all set.
Yeah, so sounds like there's no more action on this. Sounds like it's all good, and we can move on. Okay, onto any other business then. Amelia, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious about the state of branch protection rules, and most importantly, I don't know, a time frame and just like another warning that's like, hey, we'd really like to know before you click merge, so I can warn everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, we.
Yeah, go ahead. Spread the bad news.
I didn't have time to look into this, but we have a missing feature in the Pro tool, which we want to use for the implementation of that RFC. So that will take a little bit more slowly until we have an automation to apply the branch protection rules.
So that like right now, like some library is lacking.
Yeah, I wanted to look into to contribute. They have one libraries doesn't have the option to specify bypass rules for people or teams.
Yeah, if we introduce it now, all the bots would have to go through the review process, which is not so healthy. That's why, and this feature cannot, it is there in GitHub, but not in this branch protector rule. Needs to be added, and then we need to convince those folks to merge it, and or we fork or whatever, and then we could work on the integration. So no fear that this year you will be surprised by branch protections that you don't want. And of course we announce it, but if you want the branch protection earlier, then there are probably ways to support us here.
Well, I wish you luck.
Thank you.
We'll make sure to give people a few weeks notice before we actually merge this, just so that we don't step on anyone's toes.
I'm probably, given that Beyhan is involved, we will try it out with foundational infrastructure again.
Yeah, we have enough repos. Maybe we reach the rate limits.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Any other business?
It is December now, so I'm wondering if the TOC knows there are some meetings later this month that perhaps you can go ahead and cancel. Just, I would, up to you all, but you do need a quorum. I would kind of presume that on December 27th, you might not have that, but you know, if you guys want to talk about that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Go on.
Yeah, I'll definitely cancel the 27th.
Any others? Are some people taking off the 20th as well, or the 3rd?
I'm off the 20th.
I'm not working that day, but I can make that meeting.
I would be available for the 20th.
Me too.
Sounds like it's just the 27th we need to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
27th.
let's definitely cancel that one. Maybe
Oh, Tuesday 3rd. I feel like I might be driving across country that day. Tuesday 3rd of January. Is anybody else out that day? Are we all back at work otherwise? No, it sounds like it's just me. Okay, it's just the 27th then.
Cool.
Okay, I guess we just drop it from calendars. There's no central calendar we need to drop it from or anything.
Well, there is, but I'll drop that from that. Yeah, there's the
Cool.
public calendar. I'll remove that right now.
Cool, thank you. Right, yeah, final call for any other business. No, go. Let's go do the rest of our day, shall we? See you all
Wow.
next week.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.